Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Midwest Mythos. I hope you all had amazing, blessed holidays. I hope you all got to spend time with friends, family, and just, take a little breather. Um, as you all saw, I kind of took a little breather with the show. Still had stuff out there for y'all, but the interview side was a little light, but I'm happy to announce that it is nothing but interviews from here on out for a while. I got some awesome people lined up, including tonight's interview. Chris, Drewski from Cryptid Warfare podcast reached out to me. Was like, "You got to talk to my man Chris." So I reached out to him, and here we are. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Getting over a cold, so I apologize ahead of time if you hear me grunting and coughing and in between drinking my milk thistle tea. So please forgive me.
You're all good. Everybody will be cool. I know that I've had a few episodes where I sounded like death. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, okay, so my name's Chris Sirota. Um just a quick spiel, I guess. Um I was born in Chile and adopted by American parents. Um Raised Roman Catholic in Trenton, New Jersey. So very strict, very Catholic, like what we're just talking about, blue collar family, very blue collar family, military family, um, Jersey. So I mean, to kind of the, um, I guess you would say stereotypical Jersey family. That's them. So loud, obnoxious, uses the F word a lot. So that's just how they are. And I got saved when I was 12. Left the church, left the Catholic Church, which was pretty devastating to my family, being Roman Catholic. Um, but if anybody heard the Drewski on his Cryptid Warfare episode, there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. Everything from Freemason bloodlines to my own theory that I have about my own. I've been discussing more things about with my wife and things like that about my birth and things like that, kind of weird things that kind of just weirdly correlated. I don't say coincidence because I don't believe in coincidences, but I definitely believe in it was planned kind of more than just kind of a one night shop kind of episode with my mom and everything, unfortunately, you know. But yeah, did supernatural things happened, like I guess that we could say that me and Drew talked about it. Had a possible demon in my house. I guess we can go with that. I'm not completely sure about that, but I feel more compelled now than when it first happened that evening. That was pretty wild. And my wife witnessed it. She was in the house and everything. So pretty that was pretty wild. I'll say that, just if anything. And numerous other things, working at Christian camps, had some weird experiences, and um, including something that my adopted mother did, which I felt really ripped the veil open. If you listen to the episode, maybe we'll go over it tonight. We'll see. We're just kind of going organically, I guess so. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and I kind of like that, because it doesn't feel scripted or anything like that. So, um, yeah. So I
Oh,
mean, and I guess I would say, rededicated my life recently because of this stuff basically reemerging, kind of being, um, uh, because I was a Christian for a long time, and being Catholic, I don't know if anybody knows this. If you're Catholic, you'd know this. We are discouraged to talk about any supernatural stuff. Like, we're told to just ignore it and it'll go away. Like, it's just that kind of thing. Because if you acknowledge it, you give it power. That's what we were taught as Catholics. So no one really talks about it. It's kind of, you know, unless you're at a table, drinking coffee with, your grandmother or whatever, maybe your aunt or whatever, it might bring it up. But
mhm.
primarily it's not discussed. It's just, um, usually it's kind of blamed on you. Like, you must have been doing something, or yeah, you know, whatever it may be. And then being Independent Baptist was just didn't discuss it. Like, like you did something, or you're doing something, or you're imagining it, or you're just whatever. Kind of getting a side eye and shame from even pastors, pastors and pastoral staff. So I never discussed any of that. So I was always very shameful, and I always felt very alone until I found these podcasts, and I'm like, holy smokes, there's Christians out there that they're, I don't mean it as like Christians, but I mean like people who have the same faith as I do,
Hmm.
who are saved, and they're having these same experiences. It's not just me or these other people that have TV shows that aren't Christians. They dabble in other things, and I never had any connection with that. Like, like I knew people who were Reiki masters and things like that, and I just never divulged to them too much because I didn't want them to feel like they wanted to talk to me more about it, or
Hmm.
they wanted to do stuff, and I was just like, I don't want to get into that. Definitely didn't. So I was always very ashamed of what I had, and quite honestly, I hated it. And I'm getting around to not hating it. It's
Hmm.
gotten better, I would say, but that's like the first time I just turned 39, so I mean, like I've been dealing with this since like six, so most of my life. So I mean, um, but yeah, I mean, but then finding out that it's a family gift from I found my biological family when I was 17. Um, and then finding out that this is a biological bloodline gift as far as back they can remember. Like
Oh,
they've always had family members that had these gifts, but nothing is as advanced as mine.
huh. So I definitely want to build on.
Yeah. So definitely.
I definitely want to talk on
Yeah.
the bloodline stuff at some point. But one of the things I'm not. I always I've brought this up a few times and I still haven't found the right way to phrase it because I feel like no matter how I phrase it, it's going to piss somebody off. But
Who cares?
I'm
Yeah.
really glad that you brought up, especially with the Catholic and Baptist denomination,
Yeah.
is they do not bring up anything spiritual. I mean,
Yeah.
besides the Holy Spirit. But even then, I feel just from my knowledge in it, I never
Yeah.
attended more than one or two sermons, but even that they kind of limit what the Holy Spirit can do. But that was a big thing for me because I
Yeah.
everybody knows I was atheist from 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Never went to church or anything besides, I'd go to a couple like youth group nights with my friends, but just because they were my friends, I wasn't trying to get filled with Jesus.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't get behind the fact that all these people say this stuff's happening to them, but the church says, "Oh, this stuff's not real." And whether we believe it or not,
Oh
the
yeah.
United States is a Catholic nation. We are very Roman Catholic, Orthodox, just a- as a
Yeah.
foundation.
Very westernized, very westernized. Definitely different because I have family in Chile still. So like I haven't been back there in a long time, but it's a different level of faith. The faith is different. Like
It's
like I have family members that talk to me about seeing UFOs in Chile and seeing different things and experiencing different things, and like the family gifts. I mean, some of them have, like my grandfather had his gift, and my biological mother has her gift. Um, as far as I know, that are only ones, including me, in the family that have those gifts, that have something like that. The rest of them don't.
Mhm.
Um, or Chile's just very different. So like, just to give you a prime example, when somebody dies instantaneously, like say, like God forbid, they get run over by a bus, which coincidentally is pretty common. I don't know if it's common anymore, but it's very common because before the buses didn't stop, they would like roll and you just jump on. Um, I've even um, I had a young uncle who was run over by a bus. So it was very common. But when people die instantly like that, with they would build little monuments where the person died, and people would leave flowers and candles and different things like that because they believe that they're lost. Like they don't know that they died because it happened so suddenly, it happened so quick. So you have all those different kinds of things there, and then you have the the indigenous belief system down in Chile too, um, which you have down there. I mean, we have it here in America, but it's not as prevalent.
Hmm.
It's not with every single person. Um, like it's basically on reservations. Like go to reservations or things like that, Eric. Okay, so like for instance, when me and my wife, when we first got married, we went to Cherokee, North Carolina for like um a late honeymoon. It was like a year after we got married. We went to Cherokee, and my beard wasn't as long as it is right now. Um, but we would go around, and everybody who was Cherokee, not everybody, but a good amount of people would start talking to me in Cherokee because they thought, and even some of them were convinced that I was somebody they knew's cousin. They're like, "Oh, you're somebody's cousin." Like, no, I'm not. I'm not from here. And they would try to talk to me and like give me like a Cherokee discount, like at the diner and stuff like that with me and my wife. Um, so kind of like leading to this that I've never even talked about this with Drewski on the show. So you're getting something new.
Woo.
Um, we were in downtown Cherokee, and then the place where they have the historical museum and things like that, and the shopping centers, like the shopping district right there, kind of like where people would perform, the people there. And there was a restaurant right across the street. There was a stream where you could actually go like rainbow trout fishing, which was like really cool. But there was a restaurant in there that sold bison and elk burgers. Well, any place at all that sells anything like that, I'm gonna get it. Like that's just hands down.
Oh,
So we went
100%.
in, we went in, and when I was in there, I was feeling very tired and very off, and honestly very emotional, very sad. Didn't quite understand why. So we ate and we finished up, and then we went we went to do some shopping for like some family members and stuff. And I was completely exhausted. Not only that, but I was crying and I don't even know why. And I kept having these things pop in my mind about potatoes, like a potato that would literally rot and spoil, and it was like maggots and everything coming out of it. And I was having this in my mind. I never understood why. And this was so we went back to our cabin, took a nap. I felt completely better. I felt amazing. I was like, hey, let's go. So we went back the following day, and there was these street performers there. They were dancing. And so I got to talking to them and everything. Again, they asked me if I was Cherokee and everything, and I was like, no, I'm not, not Cherokee. Um, I tell them I was born in Chile and everything. And they're like, oh, well, then you're more likely distant relative, so you're indigenous too. It's fine. And so I was asking, I say, hey, is there something about this area that no one knows about, like just the average person? I said I was having like weird experiences. And the guys looked at me, he's like, oh, you must have the gift. And I was like, I guess. He goes, well, further all the way down, basically near the restaurant, he goes, just past that, there's a huge burial mound. And this town used to be called the Potato Village. And he says back in the day, the whole village got famine and everybody starved to death, basically. And that's exactly what I had in my mind. My wife was with me. She goes, that is crazy. You just had that in your mind. I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, what did you feel? I said, sorrow. I said, like, deep sorrow. He goes, yeah. He says, almost the entire village was wiped out. And it was called a potato village. That's the name of the village it was.
Mhm.
So it's just small things like that that happens to me.
That's that's a, it's uh, I almost want to call my wife down here because she literally has that stuff happen to her all the time wherever we go. It
Yeah.
like she'll get these visions, and they won't make any sense really until she either talks to the right person or she like sees like a sign or something somewhere, or
Yeah.
like reads something in like a book or an article, and it's like, oh, this is
Yeah,
why
that makes sense. Yeah.
this is why I was seeing that at this moment.
Yeah.
I personally have not had it happen, but
Yeah.
I don't have that gift. But she,
Yeah.
that's it's cool to hear another person that has that gift.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something that that I've always had, and I used to think I was just had like an overactive imagination. Um, so and that's what I was told as a child, like, oh, you're just overacting. You're just, especially being again, anybody who's like raised Roman Catholic, you don't cry, we don't hug, just bear your feelings and move on. That's kind of how we were raised. Um, you know, um, but yeah. So it's like things like that I've always dealt with, and my wife has, since we've been together, it's just more and more things have happened. Um, so I mean, yeah, it's just one of very, very many stories. So
So let me ask you a question on your gift. Now, do you is there have you come across like a name for your gift or any connections of like is from your
so
perspective, is it from God, him
I
giving
I
it?
well, that's the thing. I mean, well, well, we all everything know we can agree that everything that God has made is good.
Yes.
So, and I mean that's in the very, very, very beginning of what we believe in the Bible.
Yes.
Um, so, but has somebody in my ancestral bloodline used it improperly? Probably. I mean it. I'm not going to sit here and be like everybody in my bloodline was a perfect saint or a good person. It's just not the case. I can't sit here and say that.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, my mom's my biological family, my maternal side, they originally came from basically Israel, Jerusalem area near the Gaza Strip. So that's where that comes from. And the reason why they were originally from there is because that side of the family is not Jewish per se. They self-proclaim Palestinians. So she told me that, there's a reason why they left and moved to Chile. Let's just go with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
All right.
so but I think my grandfather um wasn't I don't know if he was Muslim. I'm not really sure, or Islamic. I'm not really sure, but I do know he was a Mason. I just found that out recently. A 33rd Mason.
Oh,
Um,
so
and what's really weird is that he was a 33rd Mason and he was Palestinian. And my grandfather from the adopted side is Jewish and he's a 33rd Mason. So, yeah. And then when my grandfather took the family out to some type of Mason party where where everybody was going, um, a high-ranking Mason came to my mother when she was 14 or 15, and he told her that he was told to tell her that she was a medium and that she should join to be a Mason. Um, and so I have a theory on that because I feel that the person who was who got my mother pregnant was also a Mason. He was an older guy. My mom was 18 when she got pregnant with me. And from when she told me he was like 35, 37.
oh,
So, and I was born on September 21st, which means, I was talking to my wife about this. That means I was conceived around the winter solstice. And they like to do stuff on solstices and different things like that. And I just came up with that just recently. I was like, wow, that means that I was conceived around the winter solstice and I was born on the fall solstice. September 21st is the first day of fall.
Yep.
Um, and so I feel like that gift was was heightened because of that. Because my mom is a medium. She has gifts just like that. And my grandfather basically was a medium himself, excuse me. And so sorry. But yeah,
You're all good.
so it's just yeah, so I don't my wife likes to call it one of the like gifts of discernments, like she was raised AG, she was raised Pentecostal.
Yep.
So she knew about more of that.
Yep.
And
Gifts of the spirit,
yeah, those kind
visions, prophecy, all that good
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
That's the reason I brought it up,
yeah,
because in the world that I'm operating in right now, just where God's got me, He's showing me people and putting people in my life that have all each of the different gifts.
yeah,
Some people have more than others. Some people they flip flop and whatever God needs for the situation. I don't have the exact verses down, but it talks
yeah,
written down. But it talks about it numerous times in there. Uh, so I just wanted to bring that up, like, because from my perspective, so I used to be into the occult stuff. I didn't do a lot besides of like tarot and stuff like that, and just
right,
being around it, but I didn't practice it. But
right,
to me, like mediums now, in my eyes, are just people that have the get like are seers, can
yeah,
see what's going on, and just being conduits for not
yeah,
necessarily so good stuff. So I was just seeing if I could get your take on it, and the whole solstice stuff. Obviously, there's
it's
times
yeah,
where
it's compelling, right?
yeah,
Isn't it?
where the veil's
Right,
thinner, and
right,
so that
yeah,
makes sense. I mean, for my birthday is on the 20 March 22nd, so
okay,
322. You got the whole Skull and Bone Society
yeah,
stuff. So one day somebody's going to dig up my grave to get into the society, but but yeah, no, one day after the solstice. So it's these people. I have noticed that people born on like the 20th through 22nd of each, like March, June,
yeah,
yeah, September, and December, are all more. The veil's a lot thinner, and a lot more stuff happens.
yeah. I just recently just kind of just popped in my head recently. I was like, wow, I had to be conceived around the winter solstice. Um, and then I was born, like we just said, I was born on the fall solstice, literally the day of the fall solstice. So I think like it was just kind of like one of those things. And then, um, because I never knew about any of those generational curses about like if you were born out of wedlock, that's a generational curse, or you were born of Mason descendants, that's a generational curse. Well, I was born out of wedlock, so I think it's just like one more little stone to put on top to build that wall, of supernatural whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and what always compelled me, so I'll even get a little bit deeper with that. When my mother told him, the guy who got her pregnant, she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant. What are we gonna do about this?" Well, he said, "Oh, I'm homosexual. I'm gay. I just wanted to see if I was into women." Now, if anybody knows their history, Chile at the time, I was born 1985. Chile at the time was underneath a nationalistic dictatorship of Pinochet.
Hmm.
If you were that, if you were a communist, a drug dealer, uh, homosexual, you disappeared flat out. You disappeared. Um, and my grandfather was a very high-ranking police investigator in Chile. Not at the time; he retired before all that happened. But for that happening, he could have easily just gone to he could have called any one of his buddies, be like, "Hey, this guy got a woman pregnant," and then he said he's homosexual. This is his name. He could have never been found again. But the reason why I don't think he didn't do it, is because my biological father is a Mason, and Masons stick together. They don't turn on each other.
Nope.
So no matter what, they keep their secrets and they cover for each other. And that's just just another little stone to kind of just build my case on that. Because if it was anybody else, they would have been gone. They would have been one of the missing thousands of Chileans, be mourning on the wall in Chile that they have. But he never was. So that's just kind of like so that's kind of like my little theory on it. And it's very just recently within the last 2 weeks I came up with that. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense because it always bothered me. I'm like, the guy said he was gay, but nothing ever happened to him. That doesn't make any sense to me. But then I was just like, wait, my grandfather was a Mason, you know, maybe that guy was too, because they cover for each other all the time. So
That
it
is
makes sense.
that is
Yeah.
one of the big reasons a lot of like just off the street people join the Masons because they're not aware of how deep you can go because we can both sit here and say there's different levels to the Masons. Like you got your entry level
Yeah.
that's just like, oh, let's help the community. It's basically like a fraternity, like just men
Yeah.
getting together and hanging out, having beers and doing stuff. So a lot of people, at least from people that I've talked to, join. Oh yeah, there's guys at business that own different businesses in there that will
Yeah.
help me get a job.
Exactly.
Some of the cops, get me out of the speeding ticket and stuff like that. And it's it makes sense, but that also makes what you just said really makes sense. And
Yeah.
I, I'm excited to see where you're just where this takes you because
Yeah.
it sounds like every day you're finding another puzzle piece to kind of fit things together. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see where
It's
that's
just,
going.
it was always a big mystery because when I found my birth mother, um, you know, it was just, and that in itself was kind of a very, I'm not gonna say coincidence either, because so when I went to Chile, I went there for a missions trip, and I was really young. I was 17. So I was like, well, I'm going to really focus on the missions trip. And if I'm meant to find my family, it'll happen. It'll work out. I was kind of throwing the wool out a little bit, but not completely. Because I really wanted to focus on the missions trip, just serving, um, and, read and help fix the church. So it was the second to the last day when I was in Chile. I sent in my paperwork to the police station through one of the members at the church I was helping with. Literally that evening, within just a few hours, they're like, "Hey, they found your mom," which is unheard of in Chile. That just doesn't happen. That quickly does not happen. And the reason why they found her so fast is because there are three women in the entire country of Chile with the last name of my family. And those three women are my grandmother, my mom, and my aunt. Out of the entire country, they had that Youssef last name. So because there are men Youssef, but there are no other women Youssef in the entire country of Chile.
That's
And so
wild.
they found her within an hour, literally. They just typed her in. There was matching address, Youssef. And so they sent a police officer over there to talk to my grandmother. And she was like, I don't know who you're talking about. And coincidentally, they found out that I even existed because my half brother was born in May, right? No, April. Sorry. He was born April. Um, and he was in intensive care, and my mom was distraught, and she was like, "Please, Lord, don't let me lose another son." And then the whole family's like, "What are you talking about? Losing another son?" And my grandmother's like, "You didn't hear that. She didn't have another son. And if she did, he's a bastard. He's not this family. And then 2 months later, I show up in Chile. Coincidentally, I don't believe in it, but yeah, that's how it worked.
Coincidences ain't real, man.
Yeah, exactly. So, and when she found out that I was in Chile looking for my mom, it was a whole whirlwind in the family because they're like, we just found out this guy was even alive, and now he's here and he's looking for you. Um, so that was a um, very emotional experience, like seeing my mother for the first time ever, that I remember. So very emotional, and you know, and for her too. I mean, you know, and so, but she's a Christian herself and everything. Thank goodness for that. Um, but you know, but yeah, she has this gift, just like I like. She has that piece of the gift. I have a very much, I guess you'd say, more developed, or just there's more to it, and that's why I feel like the Mason thing is interlocked with that weird web of whatever they do. I feel like they did that, and then to add another stone on top of that wall of evidence, my grandfather, my mom's dad, he gave me his father's name. So he named me after his father, but he specified that I had to be adopted out of Chile. He didn't want me to stay in Chile. And now I don't know why he didn't want me to stay in Chile, but I have a weird theory is that maybe those people that wanted me to be born wanted me for whatever reason. And it's just another theory I have. I can't prove it, but I feel that that's the case. Why did he insist that he put into paperwork that I had to be adopted out of the country. I was not allowed to stay in the country. And he gave me the family name. He named me after his own dad. So, um, so again, I feel like he knew, like maybe they were trying to do something,
Mhm.
and then he wanted me to not to stay in the country.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
crazy,
because
right?
it
It's like a weird movie, right? It is. My
I
wife's like, you need to write a book. You need to write a book.
you really should, man. I I really think that, especially it sounds like you've been digging into this for a little bit. Once you get
I've
enough.
been, yeah, I've been thinking about it since I was 17, when I was finding stuff out. And then, like, eventually my mom opened up to me and she was like, yeah, your grandfather was a Mason and this and that. And like, we have gifts and it's a bloodline thing. Everyone, as far as back as we can remember in our family, somebody had it or a version of these gifts going back all the way to, you know, going all the way back to basically I guess you could say biblical times. I mean, back to Jerusalem, back to that area of the world.
It does follow
I mean,
bloodlines. Gifts
yeah,
do follow bloodlines. It's
yeah. So that's just a very wild thing that I have in my family bloodline. And then so and I even add a little bit more. Have you ever heard of Nile of the Nine Hostages?
I feel like I have, but give me a
Okay. So Nile of the Nine Hostages was an ancient Irish king of like the Northern Ireland area, if I'm correct. I just know Ireland definitely, but I'm pretty sure Northern Ireland area. He was an ancient king. He actually kidnapped 9 people, and at one point in time, he actually kidnapped St. Patrick before he was a priest.
all right, yeah.
So, and his bloodline, basically all throughout Ireland, if you have the I have a RH 175, which means I have a genetic link to an ancient Irish king from my father's side. And we all know that Masons do that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And there's, you know, societies of families and different things like that. Again, you know, kind of put that together. And I'm also related to French royalty also.
Oh,
So I have not one, but I have two um, ancient royal bloodlines in me. And I've been trying to find things on the connection of Masons or secret societies with Nile the Nine Hostages. And I can't find anything just yet, but I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody out there that'd be like, I know, like, so I mean, but I mean, we know that they do stuff like that, the symbolism and different things that they do and all different kinds of things. And, I've known that I was related to that bloodline because I did the 23andMe before I got really truly anti-government and truly everything else. Um you know what I mean?
oh
But
yeah, I know exactly what you
it's
mean.
done. It's done now. So I mean I just might as well just ride with it.
Yep.
But it's definitely pieced things together for me. And then like knowing that they do things like that, um, you know, so it's just more and more things that are just stacking up to really make my theory feel have real solid ground, that it was planned that way and to do all that stuff to make it happen. Um, so yeah, very, very strange, but it's all there. It's all there. So it's black and white, man. It's pretty wild, but it's true.
It is. I was actually one of my buddies was just telling me. I wonder. Maybe I'll talk to him and get some of the information because I feel like that's where I heard about. So after you started talking about it, uh, I'm starting to recall having a conversation with my buddy where he's like a distant descendant of his is
Yeah.
also from that time period, that
Yep.
Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Most Irish people are related, but the weird thing is that um, I was born in Chile.
yeah,
So yeah. And
that
then, and then my mother told me that my biological father, he had one of, you know, I don't know if anybody knows. Most people probably do know, but I'm just going to say, um, just with Latin cultures and Spanish cultures, we have two first names and two last names. One of his last names is Leon, which is obviously French.
mhm.
And so, but I've never been able to find him. I'm not really sure if I want to find him. I'm not really sure. I don't know because I don't know if it's like I don't know how that will turn out um with everything. You know what I mean? Like,
De-
go
definitely.
knocking on a door and be like, "Hey, I'm your long lost son. You say you're gay, but here I am." But
That would be something to
yeah,
definitely pray about for sure.
yeah. I've been pondering for the past 5 years. Like what am I going to do with that? Like, am I going to pursue it? Am I not going to pursue it? Um, but I mean, I don't know. Like I am, and even now with more of like my theories of everything, do I want to? Do I want to open that relationship up with somebody who's involved with that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? Um, yeah, it's
Especially
very
with children,
right,
you got to be
right. And
careful.
I have three young children, so yeah,
You
you know,
definitely want to be careful with that kind of stuff.
hmm
That's similar to you. I just found out from my mother because she was asking about my show. She don't listen because she's not into this kind of stuff. But
yeah,
to each their own. Uh, she was telling me how my great grandfather was actually in the Masons, and they all were from back then. Like she has all his rings and all his documents and stuff, and I'm like, well, that explains possibly why some of the stuff in my life has happened to me. But
yeah,
do I really
yeah,
want to dig deep into it and find out that kind of stuff and possibly open doors, especially handling like they're not, well, they are artifacts, but artifact makes it sound like hundreds of years old. But
yeah.
do I really want to be messing with all that stuff? Like he could have just been a lodge dude, but he also could have been.
Well, I mean, I have my grandfather's 33rd apron.
Oh,
Yeah, I have all his books and everything. I keep them in the shed, but I do have them.
yeah.
So, and there's um I think I have a ceremonial dagger and everything. And from everything that he passed away, he left my dad, and then my dad he passed away back in June, so I inherited it all. So,
Yeah.
and I have books and like all these Mason books. I have not sat down and opened up and read them, but I do have them. So, just one
Yeah.
of those things,
Yeah.
you know.
So you brought it up earlier, and if you want to talk about it, it's fine. I'm definitely curious to hear about it because it was one of those we were talking beforehand. I listened to you on Cryptid Warfare, but I was kind of like half listening so I could
Yeah,
ask the if you the demon in your house situation. If
yeah,
you're comfortable talking about that,
yeah, yeah.
I
Oh
would
yeah,
like to hear more about that.
yeah. So just kind of going off it when I called, not called, but when I messaged Drewski, I was like, hey, I told him, I said, hey, I really love your show, and I don't feel alone anymore. Yeah, you're a Christian, and a lot of your guests are Christians, and other podcasters that you know are Christians, and it's really helped me out. I really appreciate it, and you know, I appreciate all the hard work you're doing because with all the episodes and everything, and all the information that I'm getting, from like Frida Rabbits and all, throwing Joel's name out and everything like that, and the rest of those guys, and including now with you. Um, I was just telling him that, and then he was just like, and I told him, I gave him like a very brief. I was like, I have my own experiences and everything, and he was like, you want to be on the show? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, literally 2 nights later, that thing in my house showed up. Um, and so I I put my two oldest kids to bed. They finally fell asleep. Um, and so I came out, walked down the hallway into our living room. My wife was sitting there with our youngest, and he was asleep. So finally he fell asleep. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go lay him down because I'm taller than my wife. So it's easier for me to put him in the pack and play. You understand that, I'm sure. Probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
But every time she tries to like she tiptoes and it's difficult. So I do it. It's no big deal. So I'm about to grab him and go lay him down. And then all of a sudden, our bedroom to our kids' room unlatches and opens. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And so I go down there. I was like, oh, great. One of my son woke up, he's up. So I was prepared to go lay down with him, put him back to sleep. They're both out cold. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I close the door and I make sure it's latched. I pull it on it. Like, okay, it's latched. That's weird. Go back in the living room. I'm about to grab my son. And then all of a sudden, the light in our bedroom, we have the feeling the ceiling fan always on.
Mhm.
Something pulled the chain to turn on the light and then pulled it to turn it off. Like you can hear the click, click, click. And I was just like, somebody's in the house. So I was like, stay here. I'm gonna grab my gun. And as soon as I get to the entryway of the hallway, I realize it's not a person in my house. It's something different. And then my gun is useless. It's not going to do anything. So I put my gun away and she's like, what's going on? I said, something's in the house and it's not human. So I'm going to go take care of it. And this sometimes has happened, but not with the lights and the doors and all that kind of, that's never really happened before. Sometimes I'd see stuff moving in the house, like shadows, and I'd
Mhm.
tell it to leave, and it'd leave. It'd be gone. Like it was very easy, very simple. So I'd walk down the hallway, and as I'm walking down the hallway, just the whole end of the house is just like electricity. It just feels like at any moment a lightning strike can hit the house. That's exactly how it felt. And I'm at my doorway into my bedroom, and it's just like I'm gonna be straightforward. I was terrified, absolutely terrified, because I know this was something that I've never experienced before, not at this level. And my wife she heard me say something. I said, well, I believe in God, let's do this. And that's exactly what I said. And I walked into the room. I didn't want to walk in the room, but I knew if I didn't, this thing was just gonna create chaos in my house and go after my kids.
Hmm.
So walked in the room and I see this thing standing next to my bed, and it's only about that tall. It's like 4 feet tall. And so it's standing there and it's blacking out the window. I have a window right next to my bed on the wall,
Hmm.
and I can't see through it at all. And I was like, whatever you are, you need to leave. This is a God-fearing house. You need to leave. And I'm talking just how I am right now. That's exactly how because usually I just say that, go on, see you later. It didn't move. If anything, it crawled onto my bed and kind of squatted there. And it said, we need to talk. And I've never had anything like that talk to me like that before. And I was like, we're not talking. This is not communicating. This is a one-way conversation. If anything, you need to get out of my house. You're not welcome. This is a God-fearing house. And in the name of Jesus, you need to leave. And then it stood up and it got onto my headboard. And again, it was crouching and goes, we need to talk. And I'm like, again, we're not doing this. You need to get out of my house. And that's when I got really forceful and then I was getting really loud with it. And I said, you need to get out of my effing house. You're not welcome here. Get the fuck out. This is not going to happen. We're not going to talk. I'm not going to sit here and talk with you.
Hmm.
Get out. And I can hear my wife down the hallway. She's praying. She's backing me up. Thank goodness. And she's holding our youngest. She's praying. I hear her. And then you could tell it was frustrated. It was mad. And so it jumped off my bed and it stood there. And I said, get out. You're not welcome. And it literally kind of like, we have like really long windows at my house.
Hmm.
It basically like, it kind of like stepped through the window. And then my neighbor, he's actually right behind me, my neighbor's house. He had a huge spot. Usually has a spotlight. Usually you'll see a spotlight, but tonight he doesn't have it on. He has a huge spotlight on, and it literally walked into the spotlight and disappeared into the, it just vanished, whatever it was. So that was the experience that I had. And I've never had anything quite like that at that level, like where one, it didn't leave the first time I told it to leave. And two, it spoke to me. Like um, that was terrifying. That was absolutely terrifying. I've never experienced anything like that before. And I came out and I told my wife, I said, whatever the hell that was, it was, it doesn't want me to go on Drewski's show. It doesn't want me to talk about this stuff. It doesn't want me to learn anything. And I was like, you know what this means? She was like, what? I said, this household's a threat. That's what that means. And I said, so, you know, get ready, babe. Whatever is going to happen, it's going to have to deal with it, you know? So,
Praise God for that, man.
yeah, and I've had other things, but nothing like that. That was like that was like, if anything, like Hollywood movie stuff. Like that's exactly what it felt like. Like this can't be real. This is nuts. This is wild. And yeah, I mean, that was pretty, yeah.
I know I so at least in this realm, I have never seen. I mean, I've seen like shadows out. Like I haven't had anything manifest in front of me and
Yeah.
sense like that. But that feeling of the electricity and just
Yeah.
s- the the only way I can describe it is like, s- pardon my French, scared shitless. Just
Yeah.
I've experienced that before, and dude, it's terrifying. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you got this like after you cast demanded it to leave, but when I've had to do that, it's like the greatest feeling in the world afterwards. I don't know if you got that, like
Uh,
just knowing the God is on your side and to
yeah.
protect. It's still you're
Yeah.
still terrified, but it's
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
taking anything away from that, but
Yeah,
it's
definitely. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, I quickly realized that at that moment, I realized that I was supposed to have this gift. And now I don't know where I'm going to go from here. And I'm like, because I'm like, me and my wife have been talking a lot. She goes, "Are you feel compelled to ministry?" I'm like, I guess so, but I don't know where it's going to take me. I don't know where this is like, because I've always been compelled to serve. Like, I went to the police academy. I wasn't even Bible college. I wanted to be a minister. Um, I did things like that, but it just never, every time, especially when I went to Bible college, like it just completely fell apart for me. It just, if anything that could happen to me, it did. And it just completely discouraged me and I just gave up. And that's something I regret. I really do. I regret. Because I feel like I could have been doing something for God for a lot longer than now. Um, so I don't know where this is like how it just picks back up where it's gonna go, you know. So, and luckily I have a really great wife. She's like, well, whatever happens, we'll just roll with the punches as like the rest of the times that, with all this weird shit that happens in the house, with you, so because I see shadows all the time. That's a normal wherever I go, doesn't matter. Um and I even get like weird feelings on people. Like if I'm standing in line and something like that, I'm like, oh well, this person is fiddling with stuff that shouldn't be touching stuff. I get weird little things in my mind, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna engage that person or anything, or
Mhm.
so
W-
yeah. And I mean, I got friends in law enforcement that are Christians, and they're like, yeah, I've definitely dealt with possessed people, hands down, definitely, you know, you know.
we'll talk about this a little bit afterwards when we get done finishing up. But there's like I feel because this show's still pretty new. It's only been going. This is the eighth, going on 8 months.
Yeah,
Um, that I've been doing it, and I feel like there's more that I'm supposed to be doing with it. I'm going to start doing documentaries at one point too. But this show, part of it's for me, but most of it is like I told God when I started this, I was like, I'm gonna let do whatever you want with the show. Like
yeah,
I am your vessel. Just
yeah.
lead me to do. And with what you just said, there, I I think I know what that next project's gonna be, and I'll talk to you about it afterwards. But I think you could have a place in it, possibly, quite possibly.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I'm starting my own drone company, so I guess if you need somebody with a drone, so
Hey, you never
you
know.
know, because
Oh,
I mean that's one of my companies that I'm starting right now. So, and I talked to Drew about that, like with because I like to do like land management stuff for hunting properties and stuff, but like using a multi-spectrum camera. That's one of my goals is to get a multi-spectrum camera on a drone. And I told him that I have theories about that, like possibly trying to catch something with a multi-spectrum camera from a very high distance, like 200, 300 feet.
I would think that I think that would be pretty successful. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I just don't know how it would turn out. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really sure exactly what would work and what won't work, or the certain circumstances of because we're still learning a whole bunch of stuff. Like I mean, this is all very new to me. Like
Mhm.
yeah, I was never like, no, they don't exist. Like it's impossible because I've experienced weird stuff. So I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Maybe there is something out there that, and being a hunter, like I hunt. So I mean, there's been times when I've gotten out of my truck and I'd be walking in an area and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go back. Today's not the day. I'm not the only thing out here. So I'm gonna go back. And I mean, I live here in Florida. There's always something that could eat me, I mean, we
Yeah,
got gators, we got bears. I mean, we got Florida Panthers, we got we got other things like that, and then all the other crazy invasive species we have out here. So I mean, that's not like what I'm thinking. It's just like, you know, you
Uh,
get like just to be, I guess you would say like Scooby-Doo, you get the heebie-jeebies and you just, yeah, I have a shotgun, but I'm not gonna stick around today. I think I'm gonna go home. Forget this.
yes.
Or I go to another spot. Like I just go somewhere else.
Well, see, you mentioned all the things that we know for a fact are out there. There, yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I mean, I, 'cause I go gator hunting and things like that. So I mean, I deal with like if you're a hunter, you're gonna deal with the possibility of stuff like that, and I mean, I go hunting in the Florida palmettos and stuff like that, and we can't see anything in front of us. I mean, we could bump into a 300-pound hog or another person. You just
yeah,
don't know until you see them, So I mean, but I mean, it's just one of those things. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. It's just but it's just like a theory I have. I'm like, well, they have multi-spectrum cameras. Like, wouldn't it be really crazy if you could see something appear or disappear on the camera? You know what I mean?
yeah. That would be.
Yeah. And they have those. They got multi-spectrum cameras for agriculture purposes.
Mhm.
And you could you switch the cameras with the lenses and everything. You switch it, you just do it right on your controller. So, I mean, um, is it possible? Will it happen? I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. I think that it could happen, perhaps, but I mean, um, yeah, it's just like again, another theory, another um hypothesis, It don't know. And you won't know until you try.
Exactly, and I
So,
mean, wh-
you know,
it sounds like a perfectly fun thing to try. What you get to be out in the woods,
yeah,
you get to fly a drone,
yeah,
and worst case scenario, you're in the woods flying a drone.
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I just got my license and everything. So I mean, I have the FAA license. So I mean, it's not like I'm just like a hobbyist,
Mhm.
or whatever. It's for commercial purposes, and I went through the extra steps to get that stuff. So I mean, and it's not that difficult. I'm not trying to like do that, but I mean, it's just one of those things. There are people that just have it to have it, but I mean, I was just doing it for like a business, just like, oh, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna try to make money, so my wife doesn't have to work anymore. That's my goal,
Mhm.
you know. And then all this came about, and I'm like, they got multi-spectrum cameras, they got LiDAR stuff, they have a whole bunch of stuff. Wouldn't that be really cool if you can get something like that? You know, whatever. I don't know, but at the same time, like that other stuff, being also native myself, I'm also native. Um, I kind of, I don't know what it is. I just like, there's just areas that I just like, nah, I'm not going in there. I'm not going to do that today. I'll change my gear. I'll go fishing today. I'll just not do that today. I'll go fishing. It's just weird. It's a weird feeling, you know.
I Are you familiar with have you heard of Lyle Blackburn?
No,
I he's a
I don't think so.
he's a researcher down in your area. I believe he's
Yeah,
from Florida. Um yeah, he's big hunter, like cryptid, Bigfoot, all that
yeah,
lizard man, all that good stuff. But he's done a lot in the Everglades. Uh he'd be a cool person to possibly like once
yeah.
you get this like somebody that knows some spots where you might see something appear and disappear on those. I
Well, I mean,
definitely.
the county that I live in is all used to be all native land. There's be mounds everywhere, but then the agriculture or farmers just plowed them down
Mhm.
so they can plant their crops. So, and like I know people that are like, yeah, I've seen UFOs out in the woods. Like I'd just be hunting and like I know a person, I'm not gonna say his name or anything.
Mhm.
He's an older gentleman. He's like, yeah, when I was 12, I was hunting with my friend and the UFO hovered over a body of water and took fish and water out and then took off. He's like, I was 12 years old. He's like 95, 96 right now. He's
Oh
an old
wow.
gentleman. And I was like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, yeah. And everybody in his family was like, yeah, he says that, you know. But like it's just that that this area is loaded with sightings with the county that I live in here in Levy County.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's weird. But
Well,
nobody really talks about it. So it's just like one of those things.
well, so I just kind of put some pieces together of something. So have you heard this recent theory about how far the Mayan Empire actually expanded?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I did see that. I know they used to have trading routes through here into Florida and then up. So we have it's called the Osceola Trail here in my county,
Mhm.
which I didn't know. Route 40, which is right here at my house, basically. The continuous of it goes straight up to Michigan, honestly. And that route, they would trade all the way up. So they would take stuff from Michigan, like beavers and things like that, and bring them down here. And then they would find stones that only were found in Mexico, in Georgia, and in up the 40 route, which is
Yep.
now what it is right now. I just found that out just last week about the route. But yeah, like the Aztec Empire or the Mayan Empire, you know,
One of them.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, and then there's um like the mountains in Tennessee and things like that. And in Mississippi, there's pyramids in Mississippi, I think I heard. Um, they're saying that they're super old, and I believe it. I mean, we got mounds here not too far from my house that me and my wife went to with the kids. Um, yeah, and they don't know exactly what the mounds were used, but nice views. They actually built a staircase so you can go all the way on top of the largest mound that they have there. You can actually see the whole river, the St. John's River,
Oh, that's
right
awesome.
there. Yeah, so you can go up there and there's like a huge like seating area with picnic like benches and stuff, so you can actually sit there on top of the mound and like look at the water and everything. But yeah, it's really high. It's like I'd say about a good 35, 38 feet high, I think. So, but it's gone down since then, but it's all built up with like oyster shells and things like that they were using for building. It's interesting, really cool stuff. But again, they don't know what they are used for.
Yeah.
So,
Who
but
knows? Well, man. Uh, Honestly, I think this would be a good place to call it for this one. It definitely sounds like I could have you back on here in the future. We we could talk for a while.
yeah,
That's for sure. But before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find your show?
yeah. So it's called Wild Pursuits Podcast. I haven't had anything up yet. Trying to get um things laid out. You understand that. So trying to get things laid out and trying to get episodes, but it's Wild Pursuits Podcast. And right now it's on only on Spotify. So trying to work on to get the one on Apple and everything else. So yeah, and it's basically on just hunting, oral history, family history, and things that people do hunting different. Like I got, I did local people around here where I live, and then hopefully I'm getting it, trying to schedule for hunters over in Guam. So, I've been talking to them for a while. It's just with the time difference, I mean, it's like 15, 16 hours difference time. So I got to be up super early, but that's fine with me. I love talking about hunting, different things. So especially about what they do and like their fishing and their hunting and everything. So yeah, and then so yeah, just doing that and trying to make another career out of that a little bit so I can, you know, go hunting with these people and do a podcast with them afterwards. That's like my goal, like to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So,
Well,
yeah,
if you ever need anybody up in Michigan area,
yeah,
I know plenty
definitely.
I know plenty of big hunters up here and a lot of big anglers as well.
Yeah, that'd be
Uh,
great, man. It doesn't have to be anything big. I mean, I hunt everything. So if there's a hunting season for cabbages, I'd probably do it, man. So
Oh man. Well, thank you again so much for coming on, brother. This was an
yeah,
absolute blast. Um, And with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, like, follow, share, subscribe. You guys have been doing absolutely awesome with that. The show has grown so much in the last 3 weeks. I've almost doubled everything because of you guys. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review, some comments. I'll read them on the show again here in a couple weeks if we get some more going. And with that, may God bless each and every one of you, keep you, watch over you, and protect you. And I'll catch y'all next week, guys. Bye.